Hello, everyone. Um, just saying hello in the YouTube chat, like usual. Reminding everyone to ask questions and suggest topics. And of course, we will talk about kind of the current events to start off until we get a good pipeline of questions going. Let me pop out the YouTube chat here. So one of the interesting headlines of the day uh, is that, well, there's two interesting headlines of the day, I think. One of which is that Google Bard is now showing citations like Bing. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's a sign that Google is kind of realizing that there has to be a marketing channel for the rest of us in this. It can't just be a big content grab. So, a step in that direction, even though it might not be enough of a step, is at least a good sign that they're trying to read the room at some level. So I'm happy to see that. So that's one story I'm probably not gonna dunk on. And the other story, which is kind of interesting to me because it's so nebulous and poorly defined to begin with, and everybody's chiming in on experts now. So now I just want definitions and examples. So the helpful content update can now demote and promote. And apparently it was demote only. So kind of the new information coming out of it was before it only served to punish you. But now it can punish and reward. So I guess there's that. But the problem is that helpful changes from person to person. So a high school student will find a high school teacher's YouTube video on analytical geometry helpful, but a PhD mathematician won't find the same video helpful. It changes from person to person. So depending upon where you are in life and what you happen to know already, something may or may not be helpful to you. And so we see that in SEO. I mean, how many SEO blog posts are unhelpful? Like if you've been in the industry 20 years, most SEO blog posts are unhelpful. But if today's your first day in SEO, most SEO blog posts are probably going to be helpful. So if this algorithm is going to go and promote and demote what is helpful and what is not, then it's either for personalized search or the word helpful has no meaning in this context. And what do you think, Lee?
I don't know. It's a hard one to define. I think one of the things that Google had published a couple of days ago that Honey dove into, it looked like some of the things they were talking about targeting in content was like expert level content, which is challenging to determine what is expert level content, just
Yeah,
like it is what is
but
helpful.
that's not helpful to beginners. You don't throw advanced mathematics at high school students. That's not helpful.
I don't know. I would throw advanced mathematics at anybody. Just saying, but
Yeah, well, I mean,
um,
you can err on both sides,
but I think
So
the way
helpful is specific to an individual.
the way that I read that, it seemed more like they were going after something that was more unique and out of the norm. So, if you have just standard, I don't care what the topic is, SEO, you have just a bunch of standard SEO blog posts, but you have something that they could quantitatively identify as expert level, it would probably stand apart in terms of its content, its audience, its viewpoint, it's information payload. The same thing is true. It looked like they were going after things that had a more personal perspective, which means I was looking at that and thinking, okay, is this like first person versus third person, or are you using, emotive language? Like, I absolutely loved this product, or, those sort of things. I mean, all of those things are measurable, and quantifiable in a SERP. You could, come up with a list of, emotion words and correlate ranking with the usage of those terms. All those things are available, but it's hard to think of that necessarily as helpful in the classic definition as much, unless you're going like Google is taking a perspective that unique or different also means helpful. So, I think about it in terms of one of the things that's been interesting over the last couple, 3 years is the sort of the attack on the affiliate space. And one of the knocks I have on most of the affiliate sites that I see is they're basically just clones of the manufacturer's product data. You basically have the exact same information as everybody else has. And so Google doesn't need 550 of the exact pages if I'm looking for best unicorn socks. So anything that varies from that, adds to it, or stands out in some way, maybe that's what they're deeming as helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, that would be weird because every affiliate on earth is rewriting the manufacturer boilerplate with AI. Like that already happened. That's old news. And yeah, and another extreme example to highlight the problem, Kyle Roof's rhinoplasty plano page. Like, it was extremely popular content. It was it was industry changing for a time. Amazingly helpful content for SEOs. Completely unhelpful content for plastic surgeons. And so one audience, man, this was the hottest post on the web for like a year. Like, I mean, it was blowing minds and everything. Google probably would deem it as spam and not helpful, which is what they did. They punished the hell out of them. But I mean, that's an extreme case. There's going to be other cases where, a post can be helpful to one audience and unhelpful to another audience. And what do you do?
I don't know, and that also poses one of the conundrums whenever we talk about content and Google's stance on content, which is, rhinoplasty plano, they took down manually, not algorithmically, because they're still city-based rhinoplasty sites that rank number one to this day. And so if you're targeting helpful or unhelpful content, how are those pages ranking? Is it that the helpful content stuff is a weak factor? It's basically a tiebreaker, or designed to find, some unicorn piece of content and throw it up in there just to round the field out? I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder about it. I think that the talking points make a lot more sense if helpful content is somehow impacting personalized search. But I get this vibe that it's somehow, kind of their content spam update. But who knows? I mean, who knows? We don't know.
And we'll have to wait and see. I don't think that I've seen, and I could be wrong about this because I don't follow it that closely. Has Google actually defined what helpful content is?
Not that I've seen. Yeah. And that's the thing. I'm trying to tease out clues. So now they're promoting and demoting helpful. And so now the definition of helpful is more important now than ever. So what is helpful? And, they're going to come back and say, we've been saying it all along. Just, read all our past posts, watch all our past videos, which, that's not helpful. How about you define the thing you're saying? Because everybody wants to know, just give a couple examples, even hypothetical ones. You don't even have to out anyone. Give 2 or 3 hypothetical examples so we understand what you mean. But that's too much to ask for. All right, so Lee, what's this Mastermind in Hell stuff?
All right, I blame Terry Samuels 100% for this one. So spring training, he put a bunch of talented people in a room, and this all started with Carl Chapman and I talking about he had an event that was coming up in June that he was looking for speakers, and so he reached out and got Elizabeth Samuels to come speak, and then he reached out and grabbed you, and you agreed to come speak at this little local event, and Clint was coming to speak at this local event. So Honey and I said, well, shit, if those 3 are speaking at this little local, Arizona Marketers Association event or something like that, Honey and I'll come in town and we'll just watch, have dinner or whatever. And the next morning, Carl says, what if we had a mastermind the next day? Since, a bunch of us are going to be here, throw something together. So we reached out to some of the speakers that you see on the screen. They're all like, yeah, let's do it. So the basic idea of the Mastermind in Hell was we're going to talk about black hat stuff, and how you recognize it, how you recognize if your competition is doing it, how you can diagnose it to a degree, if it's being done on you, because some of this stuff can be done for negative. How do you diagnose and potentially protect against or repair? So it is a sort of black hat, white hat straddle. So people that are interested in the black hat stuff can learn a little bit more about it. People that are, interested in learning about how do you detect or defend against it can learn about it too. And the guys that you see up there, on the screen are very, very good and knowledgeable on both sides of that equation. So we're excited. I'm excited to take notes from these things. So we've got, Brian is going to talk about a topic nobody talks about much, which is entity poisoning. It's how do you, recognize if somebody's trying to tank you a little bit. Garrett has got a large background in this. He works in some niches that are purely exist, with negative attack vectors from all the major players, and sort of what does that look like? How do you defend against it? Jordan Pierce has moved into sort of IT consulting, and he gave a security talk at the Mastermind at spring training that had people going, holy crap, how do I stop that from happening to me? Ted, I don't know how you got in there. Be honest, I don't have any idea. But you've got a nice background in enterprise level and have seen a lot of different things that happen at the enterprise level. Chad, same thing. He's going to talk about some of the things that can happen to get into systems. His is a little bit more on the hacking side of things. Terry's going to talk about things that can be done with schema positively and negatively. And Roman Barnes is coming down to talk about cloaking. He's been doing cloaking a lot of different ways for a long time, and he's going to come and share perspectives on that, and how you can utilize that to your advantage or make sure your competitors aren't using it to your disadvantage. So I'm excited about this group.
Yeah, so the intent of this conference is to inform people of the hazards and to give them strategies for recognizing these problems and defending against them. If you're coming to this conference in hopes on becoming a black hat negative SEO, that's you're probably going to be disappointed there.
Yeah, because here's the thing. If I tell you, oh, you can certain types of links might have a certain type of impact. You can go Google that and even chat GPT it to a degree. And if you're, clever and at all inclined, you can go figure out a lot of that stuff, on your own. It's out there. The information's out there. So they're going to talk about some of the stuff. And, if you're inclined to sort of understand some of the black hat stuff here, you can certainly take it and utilize it. It's no different than, you talked about at spring training, stealth SEO. And you can stealth a lot of things in a lot of ways, and you can stealth positive stuff and negative stuff. And, a lot of people don't realize you can use backlinks for good or for evil. You can use everything that we do can be done both ways, but just sort of recognizing it and seeing how to see what your competitors are doing. And,
Yeah, if you're an online retailer and your SEO tanks just before Black Friday every year, this might be the conference you want to attend.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying. If that kind of fits your situation, you may want to know what this group knows.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, as we all know, a lot of the best information happens at the bar. And one of the reasons is because, the people don't want their specific presentations, out to the world, but this is not being recorded or streamed. So the people that are sharing, they're sharing the stuff raw, and they'll be there, at dinner, at the bar, afterwards to talk and, make connections. And if you've got specific issues with your own sites, I'm sure that they'd be, happy to talk to you about your particular situation. So it's a great thing, because we're trying to make it so that the bar conversation happens from the opening bell, because we're not recording, don't ask. We're not streaming, don't ask.
So yeah, if you're interested, check it out. It's mastermindinhell.com. All
Yep.
right. So let's move on. Let me find where I lost question list. Here we go. All right. So first comment. Following your advice, I've successfully ranked 95 keywords in the top 100 search engine result pages for a new domain. In less than 3 weeks, this was accomplished across 93 web pages. Great start. Just keep in mind, there is always a next level. So this is an amazing start. Keep up the good work. But even when you get to number one, SEO isn't done, because you both have to maintain the number one ranking, not lose it to other players. And then there's a whole next level of how much of page one can you acquire. So yes, there is SEO beyond achieving number one. So yeah, great job. Keep up the good work. Bias for action. Always have a bias for action. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I like hearing that sort of stuff. I took action. I'm ranking all over the place. Now just keep going till you get where you want to be.
Any thoughts, Clint?
Good to see people out there working and implementing stuff that we're showing, not just listening. So I appreciate the feedback on that.
Yeah, well said. How would you optimize an article for entities? Can I get an example, maybe for blue unicorn socks? Well, the keyword you picked is kind of an e-com keyword, so it's a design of socks. And yes, blue unicorn socks is a real thing. You will find real products out in the world when you search for that. And so what I would do from an e-commerce standpoint is I would think about the upselling units on the product page. So customer searches blue unicorn socks, clicks the search result, lands in on the page. Maybe it's not the exact right design they were hoping for. So now there's a risk that they hit the back button, or you can show them lots of alternatives in hopes of, maintaining the engagement, winning the conversion. So now you need upselling units. And so the first one should probably be other blue unicorn sock designs you offer, then other unicorn themed products, other creature themed sock designs, things that pair well with unicorn socks, like the matching scarf or whatever with the same design. And then you'd probably want your best sellers, and then you'd want your promotional on sale, today only, or while supplies last, or nearly sold out. And in putting those carousels, they could show, the 4 products that they could visually display in the viewport, or you could make them scrollable carousels, and then all of a sudden they could have 50 products in each carousel, and each product is going to say a partial match or an exact match, or is going to have relevant entities to socks and unicorns and blue. And you get enough of that in there, and you take those carousels out to 50 products each, and you just added 800 relevant entities to an otherwise thin product page. How would you do it, Lee?
Well, I'm going to take that question a little differently. When you start to look at how do you optimize, with entities, for blue unicorn socks, the first thing, what are the entities? And there are a lot of tools out there. I mean, Quora pulls them, Surfer, Pop, On Page AI. I mean, there's a lot of different tools that will pull entities. What I would suggest, just keeping it simple, is use whatever tool base you want to pull those entities and work them into your page content, and see what happens to your rankings overall. Does it go up? Does it go down? Do you expand your your keyword reach and all those sort of things? One of the personal pet peeves that I have in this space is we can't see inside of Google's knowledge graph. There's no mechanism for seeing inside of Google's knowledge graph. So anything that we use to pull entities, any tool that we use to pull entities, is based on a logic which may or may not be correct. So the claim of best entity tool, or most authoritative list of entities, or whatever, is puffery, saying that my particular vision of what Google is doing is the correct one. So nobody's actually shown that with data. So my experience, just grab the tool or tools that you prefer to use, grab the entities that you think are the right ones, work them into the content, and you will do just fine.
Any addition, Clint? Clint might be busy.
No, I'm just messing with my mute button. Yeah, I think I'm with Lee. I've gone over how I do it, and using different services and putting a little bit of extra thought and effort into it. But kind of what Lee's talking about is just looking and seeing what everyone else is using, and then what the algorithms, lack of a better word, are looking for, and then putting that together in a nice clean piece of content. And if it is e-com, it's got to be a clean piece of content that's actually going to convert. So
let's see. Have you noticed a correlation between crawl rate and rankings, especially right before or during core updates? I have not noticed that before and during updates, a correlation specifically between crawl rate and rankings. Like I have seen crawl rate change frequently, oftentimes get slower during or right before core updates, but it's the inclusion of rankings that I can't tie into that. The interesting thing about crawl rate is when you start doing HTML diffs on, like, the homepage of CNN, what you will see on 5-minute intervals, where you make any text they add bold and green and any text they remove red and strike through, and you get these 5-minute snapshots of how the homepage has changing, their editors are doing live edits on the headings. They're going, no, that's not getting quite the right engagement we want on that heading, or we don't have the right slant on that story. And so you will see them wordsmith over time the headings on the homepage. And so Google will notice, they'll do change detection on pages like that, and they'll say, oh, we need to come back to this page often because it's changing often. And then Google will see a blog post you have where the last time you changed it was, you know, the last week of December last year when you rolled the publish date forward 1 year. And that was the change. So Google's not going to come back every 10 minutes on that thing you rolled the date on once a year. So, you know, the frequency with which Google visits a page is going to probably be determined by how frequently they detect changes on that page. And, you know, they'll probably, you know, visit more frequently than you change it in most cases. What do you think, Lee?
I think you're you're right on a site by site basis. The way I interpret that is more, you know, we can see changes in crawl rates across sites, you know, before and during an update. Like during an update, you don't get much in the way of crawl. You know, it gets fairly silent. You know, fewer pages, fewer bots visiting, you know, in those particular times. And other times, you know, after an update is done, or sometimes prior to an update, they will do a whole bunch of crawling, presumably to grab whatever data they need to re-rank sites based on whatever the algorithmic changes that they're making. So you can see abnormal crawl patterns across, you know, a large group of sites to kind of say that, hey, you know, Google's busy doing something, or, you know, they're implementing something. Those we've seen. But in terms of whether it correlates with movements or not, I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of changes in crawl rate on a site, you know, where my site doesn't change at all up or down through an update. And that doesn't matter whether it's number 1 or number 45, you know, it just pretty much stays, you know, where it is. And other times, you know, it's a precursor. If you're favorably or unfavorably affected by whatever the algorithmic change, yeah, you can move up or down, and you'll see the pattern of crawl increase, and then all of a sudden the movement in your site. So I don't think they're necessarily correlated. It just depends on what it is that Google's implementing.
Any thoughts, Clint?
No, I think you guys have said it all.
All right, the next one, Tanya mentions helpful content equals the last page in the search session. So in theory, the search result that satisfied the user, most likely. That would be probably a terrible mistake. I'm sure Google's looking at that, but if that could, you know, promote or demote website rankings, that would be weaponized in a hurry.
Yeah, that's very easy to manipulate.
So I hope for, you know, everyone's sake that that's not their definition, because that would be unfortunate. Let's see, e-commerce on a category page, should all the products have the exact match keyword somewhere together with the product name? Well, here's the thing. The main thing is, whatever the best target keyword is for any page, it should be obvious to everyone, including the algorithm, that that is what the page is about. Because if it's not obvious and apparent what the page is about, you're not going to rank for that. So you don't want to go, you know, secret sauce on what keyword you're trying to rank for, because that's the opposite of being about a topic. And so anybody with common sense can read a page and say, what is this page about? And it ought to be about the thing you're trying to rank for. So yeah, if it's a an orange silk scarf, you should probably call it an orange silk scarf. You should definitely try to avoid that thing that retailers do where they create fancy artistic names, because the retailers, they will have 7 different orange silk scarves, and so they'll say this one is a majestic auburn snuffler, and nobody searches for majestic auburn snuffler. You're far better off calling it an orange silk scarf, because then it's ambiently findable. It's intuitive on how people find it. You know what people are going to type into search, and so you have to play that game. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to use your keyword. I think this all reduces down to don't be afraid to use your keyword.
But you wouldn't dynamically inject the keyword into every product name.
Well,
so if I were searching for orange snuffler or something like that, and you had a category page with 5 of them,
I think it's dishonest if you don't let people know that the product they're clicking on is a sterling silver amethyst bracelet. I want to know is it 925 silver? Is it amethyst? I don't want it if it's earrings. So in the spirit of do not mislead the searcher about what they are clicking on, Google's fundamental rule that I do agree with, don't mislead the searcher, I think you have to be transparent. Be honest. The orange majestic snuffler with the mystery and intrigue is going to lead to a lot of misled, confused people. Or it'll never be seen by anyone, which didn't help anybody. What do you think, Clint?
I think it kind of makes sense to add if you're selling a necklace, to say it's a necklace, right? Regardless of the variation of that necklace, like you said, you still want to say it's a necklace. I don't want to go to a website and be looking for t-shirts and end up in, Lee's girly underwear version.
Yeah, and we see different flavors of this problem. I refer to them as conjoined categories. You get online retailers who are afraid to have a category that only has 2 or 3 things in it because it looks bad to the seller. Now, the shoppers, they don't give a shit if a category only has 3 products in it. But what a shopper does mind is when you conjoin your socks and shoes category to make a filled category, you have now made the shopper have to page through 20 pages of shoes to find your 3 pairs of socks they were trying to find. And that pisses people off, and it makes them, you'll see it in the session data when you record the customer session data on those conjoined categories. They click on the socks and shoes category, they paginate, site search socks to filter it down to just the socks. And then they get there, like you added a site search into the conversion funnel, which is like one of the worst things you can do for CRO. Like that's big ass ecom fail. You multiply that by all of the clicks you've been buying at top dollar, man, that's horrible. And so, yeah, conjoined categories are a big fail. Being afraid to use your keyword is a big fail. All right, so let's see. Oh, scrolled too far. Now I gotta find my spot again. All right. How do I steal the feature snippet position? I actually don't like the feature snippet position. I think it's for information queries. A lot of people do it with question and answer style things, and having headings followed by paragraphs and making it informative and informational. Probably the best recipe is find someone who's doing it well at the moment and replicate their design pattern for capturing it. But just note there's a price to pay. There's a high likelihood that if you add a page one ranking, that Google will take away your page one ranking if you get awarded the featured snippet. It isn't always the case, but it's often the case. And if one performs better in terms of getting sales because it's not informational, it's you're providing a product, and search result did a better job selling than the informational content, you could be impacting your store's ability to convert. But you'd have to really evaluate that on a site-by-site basis as to which one is better. My background's in e-com, and so I kind of shy away from it from $40 cart stores. What do you think, Clint? You've done a lot of this.
I think a featured snippet is a complete waste of time for publishers. They're essentially taking your content, and like you said, you spend all the time rank, and then you win, air quotes, the featured snippet. You lose traffic and you lose your ranking position. And now, they kind of the way that the world turns, right, is Google's going to have that new search experience supposedly, and they'll have that block, just like Bing did with the interface for their AI, and people are complaining, oh, it's going to push down the organic results. Well, those are the same people that were pushing everyone to optimize for the featured snippet because it's great and wonderful. So,
well,
think about all that in that perspective. It's to me, it's an ego thing. You're going to answer the query in the search results, so you're going to, you'll be the one providing more information, but since your brand isn't highlighted outside of your URL in those featured snippets, that's not doing you any good. So the branding play is gone. And if you're an information site, which, as you pointed out, most of those featured snippets are for information queries, and information sites live and die on traffic and clicks to advertisement placements. Now they've robbed you of that. So, I don't know why you would want to get the featured snippet, frankly.
Yeah, I think it's something that people like if they have a hard time breaking into page one. So if you're doing SEO for the kinds of keywords that are really hard to rank for, it's a different avenue to get some of the glory. And in that sense, it makes a little bit of sense. I'd be happy with a featured snippet on yoga pants for the yoga pants keyword if that triggered there, which I have never seen it trigger there. But if that was possible, then that would have been one of the things I would have tried. And I think if you're in that situation where you can't rank it, then yeah, it's arguable. But I tend to shy away from it. I'm not a fan. And on the AI side of things, man, I'm still amazed that the search executives can't read the room. Like, the implementation on both the Bing side and the Google side of putting AI into search has fallen flat with me and other people I know who like the technology. We want to see the opposite. We don't want the AI in search. We want search in the AI. The most practical tool on the market is still ChatGPT, the original interface. Give me Google results in that, and I'm a happy camper. So, I'm excited to see someone give me search results in a ChatGPT plugin. Like, why isn't that out yet? Probably because the second somebody does that with Google search results, Google's probably going to open up litigation or something stupid. But like, the search execs need to read the room. It needs to be useful. We want to start our workday, open up the useful tool that helps us be more productive people. We don't want, new ways to click ads in old places. Like, that doesn't excite us. Like, you've misread the room already. All right, end rant. Let's see. Any thoughts on my rant?
I think that, are you suggesting that if ChatGPT was able to integrate with Google results and it pulled people off of the Google platform, reducing their traffic and ad revenue, that they'd get pissy the same way a featured snippet does for other content providers?
Yeah, I bet it would go to court in a hurry.
Exactly.
It totally needs to happen because that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
Like,
do as I say, not as I do. Yeah.
Yeah. If Bing was smart, they would have a Bing search result plugin and ChatGPT plugins like yesterday. Like, if you can throw in a sponsored result in the output. We don't mind the sponsored results. You can still sell Bing ads. Just make the damn plugin and get it there so we can use it. Hopefully an executive is watching. Let's see. All right. I have installed AI SEO plugin for WordPress, and I add meta titles and meta description. What do you think about it? I think it's probably gonna suck. I haven't used it, so I don't know for sure. But the reason I think it's probably gonna suck is you really want to craft those titles to perform. So you have to make them relevant enough about the content of the page that Google will use them. And then you want to sneak in just the right amount of CRO that you can win the click. And that's a very balanced way of doing your titles and meta descriptions. And I doubt a cookie cutter AI, write my title thing is really going to get you your best outcome. It might be good enough to work, like Google will use it, but I don't think it'll be a best practice. It'll be like better, slightly better than average maybe, but nothing to write home about. What do you think, Clint?
Stupid mute button. So I use AI to craft title tags and give it a prompt, right? So and it'll apply the SEO stuff that I want out of it and craft the title tag and make things faster. The fear that I don't necessarily, it's a fear, but it's something that I won't want my staff to rely on is installing some plugin and then going, hey, we did all your title tags, and then it was AI and they never reviewed any of it, and you get lazy and then you're in trouble in the future. And next thing you know, what inevitably is going to happen is it's going to create stuff that didn't good. And then instead of saying, hey, it did me no good because I didn't bother because it sucked, you don't spend the time to go back and follow up. Next, you're just blaming the tool now and not yourself for being a lazy ass and going through and actually using that technology in a responsible way. So I think it's probably a conversation that everyone's going to continue to have well into the future is, it's cool to make a website with AI. But in 3 to 6 months, once all these tools start popping out, I guarantee you the conversation is going to be, how come my pages aren't indexing and AI content's not indexing? It's because you didn't pay attention you didn't go in there and edit it. You didn't build backlinks to it, or other people didn't find it helpful, so they didn't build backlinks to it. And now you're in the same boat that you are in now with the stuff that we have now. So, I mean, use them, but just have a plan to monitor them and leverage them. They're a tool, not a thing. They're not a virtual person that's going to go run your SEO campaign. And if that's the way you want to run them, then knock yourselves out. Just do me a favor and PM me all of your niches so I can go find clients in your markets and kick your ass with a little bit more brains.
Yeah, I think the thing that's interesting about that, and I agree with Clint 100% on this, is SEOs are looking for a tool, a plugin, a software that sort of automates the SEO. But if such a plugin or tool or software existed, what the fuck do we need SEOs for? That's the thing. Why wouldn't I sell my $50 plugin to every business owner, around the country, and then they don't have to pay, whatever SEOs are demanding for it. They can just do it themselves. The thing that makes you valuable is the knowledge that is not incorporated into all of the tools and techniques out there. And so if you don't have that, if you're just relying on a tool, you're dead.
Let's see. Do you agree on this study about internal links? Summary of the study from the user is the more internal links, the more a page will get. 23 million internal links SEO case study. I have not read this case study, so I don't know anything about it.
I read it. It's a Cyrus Shepherd case study. It's a correlations case study. It's a great set of hypotheses with no actual testing. All he did was correlate the math and ranking positions. So it's a great start, but it's not anything that you want to just go and apply as a SEO fact. You need to go test it.
Yeah. I know historically from many, many years ago, not recently. So like Clint said, you'd have to go retest it. But historically, big sites have always been a powerhouse. So if you can get a 50,000 page website indexed, that thing will have some oomph behind it. The problem is that's easier said than done. So getting those things to index and rank is a hard thing to do. Trying to SEO 50,000 keywords all at once is not an easy proposition. So yeah, if you happen to be in a situation that you have a massive website that Google is let into the index and most of it is ranking, mid top 100 or better, then yeah, that's an absolute powerhouse resource. You have a lot of advantage with that. So put it to good use. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I agree. The thing that's beautiful about, everybody always talks about correlations and not causation. You can sit there and have this beautiful study that shows you that there's a relationship, but you can't conclude, from that without testing, which is what, Clint was talking about. So, you don't know for the larger sites, Amazon got a lot of pages, got a lot of internal links, some of which, they architect intentionally. Are they ranking well because they're a large site or because of that internal linking, or is it something completely different and the two just happen to correlate with a third, the real ranking factor? I mean, you don't know without testing. So
and
internal links are important, but is the study, and I haven't looked at the study, is it conclusive? My guess is probably not, just based on it being a correlational study.
And surprise, surprise, we beat Amazon product pages all day long. They're not hard to beat. Sometimes it takes fewer than 25 backlinks to beat an Amazon product page because they just have nothing out at the leaf notes. Amazon's big at the trunk, got teeny tiny branches. Twigs. It's all trunk and twigs. Let's see. What do you think of Google I/O News? I haven't watched it all yet. I did see some of the meme highlights on the number of times they talked about AI, which if you're still expecting Google to punish AI, that should have been a clue that you misread the situation, because Google must have talked about AI 100 times per lecture in there. Did you catch any of it, Clint?
I watched a lot of the highlight stuff. I mean, they got some great ideas, but based off of the history of what they've released in the past, I mean, I'm not expecting expecting everything. There's already people out there saying that it's better than ChatGPT and, you know, the typical bullshit that a lot of these clowns spew out on social media. But if I'm just kind of, I'm like you, and just gonna wait till it's released, see how they're gonna implement it, and then figure out how to leverage it. It's kind of how I'm approaching it.
And I'll let the search execs know when they did it right. You know, it's really going to be easy to tell. When I sit down to start my workday, if the first thing I'm opening is your search engine because it's vital to me being productive, then you did a good job. But if I'm still going to Chat GPT because that helps me be more productive, then you did it wrong. So we want a useful productivity tool out of this technology. That's everybody wants to do cool shit with it. Let us do cool shit with it. What do you think, Lee? You look like you wanted to say something.
I got nothing on this. You know, this is off my radar, and you know, because it's such a fast developing field that you can get swallowed up in this, and I'm not ready to be swallowed up in any direction at this particular moment in time.
All right, but don't stand too idle. You definitely want to keep a little bit current, because if you fall behind, it can get hard to catch up.
Oh, I have a few people that I follow that pay attention and actually do test, measure, and, you know, understand this stuff. So, but I'm not every, you know, little piece of something that comes out there, I'm not jumping on that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Is there ever a situation where you want to tighten up the products on a category page? Say you want a page to rank for blue shirts, but there are blue and red shirts on the page. Is that a problem? I don't think it's a problem because Google is a broad search system, so those would apply within broad matching. You know, the considerations that I've always found in e-com is that anything at the top of your store categories is in the premium real estate. And so we would do these business intelligence reports on the value of the real estate. We treated the opportunity in the store as if it was a real estate market. And so we would look at the revenue per product token in a category, and we would watch how the revenue per product, you know, monthly revenue per product in the category would diminish as you go further and further down in the category to page 2, 3, 4, and 5, and things would sell less. So the things we would tend to sell the most of would usually appear earlier in the category. So we would then start doing analysis on what sells, what has good margin, what are we invested deep in, and we would start leveraging the e-com categories to make strategic plays in that way. While SEO is a concern, it's not always the biggest business concern. So you want to balance the other needs of the business, because maybe you need to free up shelf space in the fulfillment center. Maybe you need to get us out of a bad product that we went deep on. Maybe there's a time-sensitive promotion, so maybe you should have a promotional top of category product. There's a lot of ways you can make good money, you know, with your skill set of e-commerce, and SEO is one of them, but it's not always the most important. What do you think, Lee?
I think well said.
And Clint, you're a BI guy. What do you think?
I'm right there with you.
All right. So let's see. Love Clint's show yesterday. Said it a million times. If you're not watching SEO this week, I can't help you. Clint is one of the most tactical SEOs around, and he shares pure gold on that show. So if you're looking for content to consume, and for some reason you're still not watching SEO this week, I don't know what to tell you. All right. For local optimization, besides things to do, landmarks, HUD blurbs, embeds, weather, bus stops, driving directions, is there anything else that qualifies as proximity signal for maps? The thing I like to do is I like to do comparable analysis. So I like to go into a neighborhood for a keyword I'm trying to help somebody with, and I will look at all the competitors and will try to see who's doing well on proximity, who's doing well on getting out into the burbs. And I'll just go and look at how they're structuring and what they're doing. And I've seen a few things that I want to go back and test because it was interesting. And one of the interesting things I saw was multiple office addresses on the website that weren't all specified in the GMB. So the main one, the headquarters, was in the GMB, but the other satellite offices were just listed on the websites. Like they didn't give a crap to try to go through whatever hurdles Google set up, but it appeared to be working like fire. And so I want to go find examples like that and test those ideas and see if I can't figure out the edge cases of things you can do on a page that can help expand those proximities. So when you're short on creative ideas, go do competitive analysis. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I'm going to take this a little bit different. The base question, when you're looking at all of these different signals, you use way more proximity signals than I do to rank locally. So to me, it sounds like the underlying thing is you're looking for additional proximity signals because what you're doing is not getting you out as far as you want. And I would suggest that rather than look for additional proximity signals, you take a look at your on page. I would focus on getting your organic rankings up because that will also support you in your efforts to expand your proximity.
Any thoughts, Clint?
I hate maps. Joy Hawkins said that Google is showing less map packs for search terms, and I hope they remove it completely.
Clint's a national SEO guy. Olga gave us a super chat. I just want to say thank you for that. We really appreciate the support. We'll use the funds to promote the channel and help grow the channel. So thank you so much for that, and we appreciate it greatly. Let us know if you have a question. All right. Let's see. All right, here you go. Ted, you've mentioned supplemental content several times for e-commerce along with intent. My question is, have you seen CTR and therefore ranking suffer? Well, if you're manipulating CTR, there's kind of this effect that we believe is a trending effect where, oh, you're trending now. Look how popular you are based on the traffic you're getting. And the question becomes, what happens when you're no longer trending? So CTR can be a good thing, but probably only if it's sustainable. Or CTR could be a good thing in small amounts early on, just to kind of get you, through a gate, get you into the ranking, get you processed faster, those type of gatekeeping. But I don't know that it's a great thing in SEO in general for ranking. Like, I haven't seen strong evidence that heavy CTR manipulation will help you rank for a national term. It seems to be more impactful for local and blowing up proximity. And a lot of what I've seen has been kind of temporary. So it's while the campaign lasts, it works. And then when the campaign stops, then kind of the research stopped there too. So a lot of unanswered questions. What do you think, Lee? You're a CTR guy.
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to go back to the question. I'm not sure. Maybe I misheard the question. I'm wondering if they're asking if the addition of supplemental content somehow has a negative impact on ranking in CTR, not whether the CTR drives.
But how? Like, it's not going to be in the SERP result. So like the supplemental content won't be in the link summary for the page.
So it's not going to pop up the way you do it. It's not going to pop up into like the affect the title or the the meta description or things like that.
Yeah, the fact that you have an accordion on other things to consider about topic X is generally not going to be presented in search, so it shouldn't affect CTR. And so yeah, no, what we generally see with supplemental content is it impacts your relevancy. So you're getting more keywords, more entities, more information, on topic information, and it's relevant to your topic. Like, it's not fake content. These are actual things to consider when picking a lawnmower. Like, that's relevant supplemental content. And if you read the quality raters guidelines, that's supposed to be a good thing in Google's own words. Like, they're told to award positive score for having relevant supplemental content on the page. So yeah, no, I haven't seen that. Is it possible that you add supplemental content and tank a page? If it was wildly off topic, yeah, it's totally possible. But I haven't seen a lot of that. I've seen the opposite. Like, I make supplemental content and get, a big jump up overnight in many cases. What do you think, Clint? Is there a big hazard there?
You think you alluded to it. If you have an e-com store selling jewelry, and then you start doing posts about cars, you're going to have a problem. But it's going to take a lot of posts to mess it up. And versus the other side, if you're doing like rehab, for instance, and the informational content in the rehab space, a lot of that the visitors don't convert. But it's a branding play at that point. It's not a conversion play. So you want to be the person that's top of mind, the person that's answering questions when they have it. And then when they need you or decide it's time a year down the road, you're the one that's giving them all the resources so they can call you first. That's how I see that supplemental stuff. If I was just doing a search for chainsaws the other day, the supplemental content would be the parts list, how to fix it, how to start it, how to tighten the chains, all that stuff. None of it would be converting. And I would go to that page and then leave that page. I would never go to the rest of the site. And I don't see how that could hurt the website in general. The concept is actually, if you've been watching the last couple of shows, we talked about Corey's course. He mentioned historical data and how that plays a part in your future response to algo updates, or how his theory of it. And to me, that makes a whole lot of sense. If you have a whole bunch of that supplemental content, getting a whole bunch of traffic and people are going to it, engaging with it and is ranking, it's natural to think that your actual money pages would also get a benefit from that association in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. For information queries, when the information content is put on the product page, because SERP's listing schema is pointing towards buying. So that's an intent wrapper on the question. I don't think it matters all that much, because like putting product information on a page and product comparison charts and reviews and pros and cons and ingredients and all of that stuff is as old as time in e-com. And so if Google was going to punish that, I mean, that would be remarkable. So yeah, I'm skeptical that that would be a damning thing to do when it's so commonplace everywhere you go. Have you ever documented or made a course how to set up the domains to give your ecom 25 links automatically when you publish new products? If so, where? No, I have never done a course on that. I have in lay terms explained what I did. Simply basing it off of the Merchant Center product feed, so it auto manages itself, and then it's custom development, it's store-like, it completes the sale on the money site. So you just got to get creative with a developer. It's not rocket science. It's typically a one-page PHP script to kind of pull it off in a config file. But yeah, we've talked about that a bunch. You just gotta do your own innovation on it, because yeah, no course. Google have been making rumblings about the helpful content update being updated. Any thoughts on what this may target? No clue. Depends what the definition of helpful is. So we talked about that at the beginning of the show. So yeah, you can go back and watch that unless there are any additional thoughts.
No.
No additional thoughts. Okay. Let's see. Lee and Clint dropping hard, cold truths. Yep, it's a public service. We thank them for their service. And let's see what to do when the client deletes their top ranking pages and scores.
Get a new client.
Should I suggest 301 each and every page? I don't understand what they did. It sounds pretty reckless. So they deleted their best performing pages. I mean, put them back. Why, That's the question. I'd want to know why, and I'd want to know if there's an undo button on it. Redirecting is kind of like the worst, okay thing to do. Like, I mean, you can do it. It's okay. It's not a great solution, but I guess it's still better than nothing. What are the top ranking factors for YouTube? I'm not a great YouTube ranking expert, so I'm going to defer to Lee because he's done more of that than I have.
Yeah, I think the biggest one always had, I mean, I haven't done a look at, if there's a whole lot of new stuff, but it's always been pretty much total watch time has been the big driver. So the more you have people watch your videos and stay on the platform, that's always been a big deal. I mean, there's some elements of, title optimization, there's some credit given for exact match. There's some credit given for some of the stuff that you have in the description and those sort of things. I mean, they're all out there, but basically the remedy for most YouTube thing is watch times on YouTube. You can't embed YouTube videos elsewhere and have people watch them there and get credit on YouTube. They don't do that because that's the way people used to auto inflate their numbers. And so Google shut that shit down. So if you're not on the YouTube platform getting your videos watched, that's basically it. That's the primary.
There you go. All right. And we're 10 minutes over, so we'll kind of call it there. I want to thank everyone for watching the show. Remind you to watch SEO This Week on Mondays on YouTube, and also to check out the Mastermind in Hell. If you're open to go and do the Phoenix area to learn some SEO cool shit. So thanks again, everyone.